Hello, everybody. We're back again. Going to do a little follow up on an Instagram post I made last week about Gary Popkin. I got a lot of, you know, direct messages, and I got comments posted on Facebook and Instagram wanting to know certain things and issues that had happened. So I just figured I'd do this little pickup on that Instagram, Facebook post. Gary Popkin initially was a Frisco member, and he wound up going to Oakland. I don't know exactly when he went there, but I know he was a prominent member uh, in that power base up in Oakland in the early 70s, maybe late 60s. So in 1972, he, along with Sonny, uh, Whitey, and Sergei, these guys were all charged with murder. It was a murder of a drug dealer. And ultimately, they all got acquitted. But after the trial, there were 5 murders that happened. And, of course, they tried to reinvestigate and drag these guys into it. I'm not sure if the timeline's right, but Sonny had another case going, and he got found guilty in that case. And he wound up getting a 10 to life. And he went to Folsom Prison. And with him gone, Deacon Proudfoot took over as president, and he held that position right on the cusp of Sonny coming home. I don't know why he did it, but once Sonny was getting ready to parole and come home, Deacon stepped down. That created a void in the political structure up in Oakland. And you had Sergei vying for power, and Gary Popkin was his vice president. And, there was a lot of issues between LA and Oakland. And the biggest issue was the fact that a 20-year member from Oakland transferred down to Ventura, to Los Angeles. And several members from Los Angeles were transferring to Oakland, so I guess they figured these guys are coming up here, I'll go down there. Well, Oakland didn't like it. They took that as a direct affront to them, and it created a lot of tension. Also, what created a lot of tension was the war with the Mongols. The war with the Mongols was going full on. Sonny was trying to come home on a parole, and some of the people in law enforcement were holding Old Man John and the Hells Angels in Los Angeles responsible for the war. And they were trying to wedge the club that if we couldn't resolve that issue, they would hold up Sonny's parole. It was probably a complete bullshit thing, but it affected Oakland. They confronted the old man, and he decided to step down. And what happened was Ray Glore took over, and Ray was just continually making mistakes. He got into a dialogue, and I think I've talked about this in the past on some of the other videos. He got in a dialogue with Montevilla, was recording things, and taking the recordings up to the OM and playing them. And a lot of people took exception with this. They took exception with it for 2 reasons. One, just the mere fact that he was recording everybody was becoming very suspicious that this is perhaps how Ray conducted himself. The other issue was Montevilla from the Mongols was really talking circles around Ray in these negotiations. So Ray was not looking good to the club. And it came down to a fist fight in the Oakland clubhouse. What happened was Fu Griffin called out Ray. They got into it in the clubhouse, and after that fight, they decided perhaps they wanted to pull Los Angeles Charter's patches or just close the charter down. We could never get a straight answer. It was a real mess. Ray Glore fights Fu. Russell Bea, Oakland heavyweight, and I've talked about Russell in the past, comes down, steals Ray's girlfriend while Ray's in jail. And when Ray comes home, he's suspected of cooperating. And within a couple of days, Ray's murdered. And, that murder remains unsolved. But, Oakland's still intent on closing the Oakland chapter, and I let them know that I was not going to allow this. So I wind up in Oakland, and this is where the questions came in. Animal, anybody following my YouTube, videos understands Animal and I had a very unique relationship. Animal and I went to elementary school together, went to high school together. We hung around the question marks together. In addition to that, we both became Hells Angels together. I was a Hells Angel in Los Angeles, and Animal's now a heavyweight in Oakland. So I get wind from Animal that Gary wants to sit down with me. He wants to talk about what's going on. I say, okay, I'm somewhat suspicious of it because Gary's a heavyweight. I don't have a relationship with him. My relationship was with Animal. But Animal's an Oakland member, and if Animal is asked to do something for Oakland, I'm sure he's going to do it. I go over to Gary's house, and Animal opens the door, and this is where all the direct messages came from. People want to know what I was feeling and what transpired. Animal tells me Gary's waiting downstairs for us, and it was a long, narrow hallway that went into a basement, and it was the stairs. And we went down the stairway. Animal was behind me. I've got to tell you, I wasn't scared, but I was being cautious. I was kind of trying to look over my shoulder, looking at the shadows on the wall, if any shadows were cast. As we got down to the bottom of the steps, I saw Gary sitting behind a huge, huge desk, and I immediately became relaxed. There was nobody else down there. I didn't see any plastic on the floor. And Animal seemed to be in good spirits, and Gary was very gracious to me. And I've got to tell you, it was like going into a museum. It was Hell's Angel stuff everywhere. It was very dark, and the lighting was, it was pretty impressive. On Gary's desk, he had bowls full of drugs. He had a bowl with had a little sign on it that said crank. Then next to it, he had another bowl that said Coke. And then next to that, he had a bowl full of Lily F40 Reds. They were downers that were real popular back in those particular points in time. And, he just starts giving me some real insight into the politics of the club, what's going on in Oakland with the power vacuum that had been created. Talks about Sergey, talks about Sonny, and there was a Walton's Warriors. That was Sergey Walton and Barger's Brutal Bastards. Those were the two factions up in Oakland at the time, and I spent a couple hours there with Gary, and I left there very comfortable. First thing I did, I had called Old Man John prior to going to Gary's house, and then I called him again afterwards to let him know I was all right. But I got a lot of insight, developed a real personal relationship with Gary. We talked about a lot of stuff. I'm not going to get into all of it. You can imagine what we talked about. There was a lot of stuff going on in the club. But the political insight I got from Gary was just amazing. And him and I created this relationship. It was interesting. Guys like Gary were very elusive. They would drift in and out of the picture. You'd see them on parties and runs, and then you wouldn't see them for a while, and then they'd show back up again. But that was a story of me walking down the steps. If you have any more questions about it, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Keep in mind, this is just guerrilla filming. I'm not editing anything. I just turn the camera on and I go. So if I make a few mistakes and I give you some ims and ahs there, you're just going to have to deal with it. What I also want to do is I want to answer some questions. I got some questions. I got a list here. And this guy named R. Fisher came up with something that made sense to me. And he wanted to talk about brothers killing brothers. And he thinks it destroyed it for everyone in the outlaw bike culture. And, there's a lot of truth to that. I think the comment killing brothers speaks for itself. I mean, that's not the way to conduct a club or the way to conduct yourself, not the way to deal with things. Now, I got another one here from Stomper 2888, and he's pissed off that he had to pay for the my stupid Patreon fee for those videos. And now they're on YouTube for any Joe Blow to see free of charge. And he ends it by saying, "What the fuck?" Well, what the fuck? I'll tell you, the videos are probably over a year old. I wanted to make it accessible to everyone. And I don't know what to tell you. There's content on Patreon that's not on YouTube. Anything on YouTube is on Patreon. If you don't want to pay the money, quit whining, Stomper. Just resign from making your big $4.99 a month payment. If David Ortega was here, he'd probably call you a cheap bastard and a crybaby. So anyways, I hope I didn't offend you, Stomper. Yeah, right. Josie Whaler, he wanted to make a comment. I wasn't sure if all three Hells Angels were killed by the Outlaws. There were two Hells Angels killed, and there was a third ex-member killed at that rock quarry. So I just did a little follow-up on that. I couldn't remember. And then the next question is from a guy named Joe. How did the Pagans' War start? Well, I'll tell you. I think Lou Dobkin, I think was his name, I think he just had a dislike for the Hells Angels. He always did, and he continued to instill that in the new members. I talked to the Pagans a few times, felt like we could have resolved some issues with them, but I was told this guy Lou was a real hardliner and had no interest in resolving anything with the Hells Angels. Jeff Gee, now I don't even know what this means. Jim Nolan did what he did, and the Hells Angels didn't. Well, Jeff, that has no water. There's no substance to it. You know what? Jim Nolan did do what he did, and so did a lot of Hells Angels. And Jim Nolan, along with other outlaws, wound up in prison for acts like that. And Hells Angels wound up in prison for doing the same thing. So I don't know what the hell you meant by that, but next time think before you write. Okay, Birdman. And this is very profound. I'm going to end with this. I didn't answer a lot of questions, just a few. If you guys are interested in me continuing to do this, continue asking me questions. But Birdman says, sometimes the one who wants peace is the real man. And I'll tell you, I think there's a lot of truth in that. One of the things I found that being a proponent of peace, you don't become very popular in the outlaw bike world. Everybody's looking for a problem. Everybody wants to continue to fight. Everybody wants to take revenge for fallen comrades and whatnot. But, sometimes you got to put that stuff behind you. And, I reached a point in time when I didn't want to go to any more funerals, and I didn't want to be on any more visiting visitors lists for going to prison to visit brothers. So I just decided that I would take that posture and position, and I got a lot of flack for it over the years, and I really didn't care. People could say what they wanted about me behind my back. No one ever said anything to me to my face, and that's okay. But I will tell you this: I was always for peace. I tried to talk other members into that position and posture, but I'll tell you, I've said this when I was negotiating, and I still feel the same way today. To be an effective peacemaker, you have to be willing to go to war. So I'm going to end this little deal with that statement. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll try to put something else together. I was gone all last week. My wife and I were in Texas we're back. Getting some more stuff up now. And if you got any questions, DM me or write me on the YouTubes as I continue to post them. All right, everybody, take care. Talk to you later.